We're back to overnight temps again in the 50s. Today it's in the upper 60s, but it's overcast. It's going to rain soon. But with the garlic harvested, time to get my kidney beans into the ground. Beans are screaming at the seed snails that I've got them growing in. So let's go get them planted. These are the beans growing in the seed snails. And as you can see, they're really growing pretty tall. Time to get them into the garden and out of these seed snails so they can grow properly. This is where I'm going to be planting the kidney beans. This is where I had my garlic growing all along this bed. It's a 15-foot bed, and I'm going to be planting the beans 9 to a square foot. It's only about 21 inches across though, not 2 feet. So I'm probably only going to do about 12 beans per row, and then however many we go down there. So the first thing I want to do before I start planting out the beans is to replenish the soil. So what I'm going to do is just add some aged chicken manure, just a thin layer over the top of the ground to help replenish the soil. The garlic is heavy fears, and every time I add a new crop to a plot, I like to put in some compost. Since I've started saving all this aged chicken manure, that's my compost of choice right now. And again, this is just a thin layer. And really, for like a square foot of space, you need just one good scoop like this to put in and mix into the soil. So once the compost is laid out, I just lightly dig it in. There's lots of earthworms in here, so I'm sure they'll appreciate the poop coming in. And then I'll just smooth out the bed. And I'll finish up going down the entire length of the garden bed. So I've marked out where I'm going to be planting each of the bean plants. As I said, I'm going 4 across, 12 plants across, and however many that makes it down with what I've got growing. So now I'm going to unroll one of my seed snails, and we can start planting them out. Which way do I want it to go? This way, I think. Yeah. So as you can see, the roots have grown in there. Not as packed as I thought it would be, but it could be that they started growing upward to the side too. So let's try and separate these plants without damaging their roots. So this is the root system. So I'm now going to take this plant, this bean plant, and plant it into the soil. So just going to open up the hole, go a little bit deep with it. Not too deep though. Plant that in there and then firm it in around. Just want to make sure the roots have enough space to go down. And again, I probably should have wet this soil before I did this. There we go. And one more will go in over here. Not quite like onion roots, but you can gently tease them apart. But as they say, beans don't typically like to be transplanted, so we'll see how how they handle that. Once they get watered in, they'll be able to acclimate to the soil and they'll stand up again. I'm gonna think some of these aren't gonna make it because this looks like it was waterlogged. So I don't know. I'm gonna put it in anyway. We'll see what happens. Maybe new roots will grow. So I'm going to go continue on down, unrolling some more seed snails and getting these beans into the ground. So we've got the beans in and ended up with about 112 bean plants. There's a lot of small sprouts in this area, while most of the plants were like this. But mistakes were made. First, you don't need to plant beans in a seed snail. They're so fast growing, you can just direct seed them, and that's why they tell you to do that. Just direct seed, plus beans don't like to be transplanted. So the good news is, even if this whole planting turns out to be a disaster, I could still soak beans overnight and plant them in the ground the next day, and within a short period of time I'll end up having the bean plants growing again. I'll be behind a couple of weeks, but like I said, even if this turns into a disaster, it won't be a complete loss because I could just replant them real quick. Two, with seed snails, you don't need as much water as you think you do. A lot of those seed snails were really waterlogged and a lot of the seeds rotted. The stems of the plants that did sprout, a lot of them had turned soft and were rotten, so couldn't be used. So that's why instead of 250 to 300 plants, I had 112. But actually that worked out well because that's just about what I need, because at the other end of the bed, I'm going to be planting the kale. So it all worked out, but it was my error that I had got it like that, because like I said, you don't need as much water as you think you do. And they must have drained, the seed snails must have drained, so they were sitting in water, because those little buckets that I had them in didn't have drain holes in them. And so they must have drained through the water and then just sat in there for a while, so stayed waterlogged. So beyond that, I mean, the plants, I mean, they look good. The ones that I was able to plant, a lot of them, you know, look really good. And hopefully if they handle the transplanting, they'll take off and we'll get some kidney beans out of it. But if you want to see what we're doing in the garden last week, check out this video right here, and then subscribe and hit that notification bell. And that way you'll be able to follow along in the progress on all of our vegetables as we try to grow a supermarket in our own backyard. Okay, thanks for watching.